The night air over the shuttered Herndon service station clings thick with gasoline and cicada song. Under a single flickering floodlight, Tommy Briggs stands beside his stalled 1958 Chevy Bel Air, fingers brushing the dusty pump handle as though willing it to flow. He's worn the soles off his boots, trudging back and forth, eyes fixed on the silent meter, while inside the car his mother dozes beneath a faded quilt, and Rachel, his 13-year-old sister, flips through a yellowed newspaper clipping. Her pale face glows in the lamplight as she reads the headline, Elvis Presley to perform in Jacksonville, one night only. Their journey has halted just as dusk yields to full darkness. They've driven more than 300 miles with no seats to spare, no tickets in hand, only the frail hope of seeing the king from a distance. Tommy's heart pounds with both pride and shame. Their father died last winter in Memphis, and his last request, murmured through fever dreams, was that if they ever saw Elvis, they should tell him, "You gave my heart back." Now the promise feels as weighty as the engine that refuses to turn over. When the gruff attendant at the booth yanks them off the pump and locks the gate for the night, Tommy and Rachel step onto the gravel shoulder and set off on foot. The road glows red under distant taillights, the pavement still warm from the sun's daytime blaze. They pass rusted road signs and darkened billboards until the hum of traffic coalesces into a roar, a living tide pulling them toward the stadium. Outside the stadium fence, a swarm of bodies pushes against chain link and floodlight glare. Ticketless souls pack elbow to elbow, voices rising in a chorus of expectation. Tommy grips Rachel's hand so tightly her knuckles blanch. The heat bears down, and Rachel's knees buckle. She sways, eyes rolling back, and then she collapses among the waiting crowd. Sweat beads on her forehead as Tommy drops to his knees, eyebrows creased in panic. Before he can shout for help, a uniformed guard jabs him aside. "Move on, kid. No pass, no entry. Keep her out of the way." Tommy clutches Rachel's shoulders, voice urgent. "Please, can't you help?" "She's fainted." The guard's expression hardens. "Not my problem. Get lost." Tommy's pleas dissolve into shouts, but the guard's back is turned. He slaps Rachel's cheek gently, trying to rouse her. The crowd's chants and car horns beyond the fence merge into a single, throbbing pulse. Tommy feels the pressure crush him. He glances up and sees a black limousine roaring to a halt, its engine's rumble carving through the hubbub. The door swings open, and out steps Elvis Presley in a white silk shirt, unbuttoned at the throat, his face gleaming under the stadium lights. He pauses mid-stride, scanning the scene with a calm intensity that parts the sea of fans. When his gaze falls on Rachel, pale and unmoving, something in his posture shifts. He strides forward, heedless of protocol, weaving between security men. Tommy whips his head around, disbelief and relief fighting on his features. Elvis kneels beside Rachel, brushing damp strands of hair from her temple. His voice is quiet but carries across the throng. "Is this your little sister?" Tommy finds his voice in that moment, nodding. "She just fainted." Elvis presses a handkerchief to Rachel's brow, then lifts a small silver flask from his pocket, unscrewing the top. The guard opens his mouth to object but catches Elvis's eye and steps back, mouth falling open. Moments later, Rachel coughs awake, blinking up at the star who cups a glass of water to her lips. Her cheeks flush, embarrassment contending with gratitude. Elvis doesn't flinch. He helps her to her feet, then turns to the guard. "Let them back here," he says quietly, voice firm without a hint of showmanship. The guard shoots Elvis a questioning look, then nods, waving Tommy and Rachel through a side gate. Behind the scenes, in the softly lit corridor of vanity mirrors and coat racks, Rachel leans against a folding chair. Elvis stands close, folding her damp hair behind her ear. He offers her the water again, waiting patiently. Tommy stands just behind, arms folded, unable to take his eyes off the singer's composed concern. Their mother, roused by the commotion, steps forward in her simple dress and wraps her arms around both children, tears glinting in her eyes. Elvis smiles gently, as though he's merely done what any man would. He straightens, pockets the flask, and nods once. "You're safe now," he says. Then, barely above a whisper, "Your father told me something important once. He said that music can save a life." His gaze meets Tommy's, earnest and solemn. "Tonight, he saved yours." No flashbulbs pop. No chorus of cheers determines the moment. In that quiet backstage alcove, the family's fear and relief crystallize into a memory none of them will ever forget. A reminder that even beneath the brightest lights, kindness can shine the brightest of all. A hush settles over the cramped green room as Elvis steps back into its dim glow, closing the door against the roar beyond. His white jacket still wraps him in its sequined splendor, but inside these walls, the mantle of stardom slips away. Tommy and Rachel stand with their mother just inside the threshold, eyes wide and bodies trembling. The swarm of spectators, the flicker of camera bulbs. None of it matters here. All that counts is the ragged breath of a little girl who nearly collapsed moments ago. Rachel presses her hand to her forehead, cheeks flushed. Elvis, unfastening the top button of his shirt collar, picks up a chipped ceramic mug from a low table. He pours cool water into it, then hands the cup to her with careful gentleness. Her fingers curl around its handle, and for the first time since she fainted, she manages a faint nod. The water cools her pulses. Her eyelids flutter open again. Elvis watches, silent and patient. Tommy's mother steps forward, voice catching. "Sir, thank you for everything." She wraps her shawl tighter, tears gathering at the corners of her eyes. Elvis offers a small, somber smile. He tucks a strand of hair behind Rachel's ear as she brings the cup to her lips. No flourish, no show, just a man extending care to a family in need. As Rachel's color returns, the hush is broken by Elvis's soft question. "Your father? Did he love music?" The question drifts between them, more intimate than any lyric. The mother inhales, steadying herself. "He lay in a hospital bed in Memphis," she says, voice barely more than a whisper, "and played your records each morning. He'd smile through the pain, and that kept him going." Elvis's gaze drifts away, recalling his own mother's struggles, the nights he sang lullabies through tears. He moves to a small vanity mirror and removes the star-shaped pin from the lapel of his jacket. It's his personal talisman, worn since his earliest days on stage, a reminder of home and heart. He tucks the pin gently into Rachel's palm. "Keep this close," he tells her. "Your father sent it here with your story." Rachel looks down at the gleaming pin, tears slipping free now, not of fear, but wonder. She clasps it against her chest. Elvis steps back, allowing space for their gratitude to bloom. The mother straightens, as though forming the courage to speak again. "He always said you saved him," she murmurs. "Your song was all he heard when everything else was dark." A chord resonates in Elvis's mind, the very song that filled her father's final days. He glances toward the backstage entrance, torn between his duty to the show and the weight of this family's truth. The trio waits, silent and hopeful. Then Elvis nods once, firm as a vow. "Then let's share that music," he says, voice low but unwavering. With that he steps toward the curtain, the rhythm of the audience's impatience pulsing through the walls. He turns back for a moment. "Stand by the stage door," he instructs. "When I call, come forward." Rachel and Tommy exchange astonished glances. The mother's jaw softens in disbelief. Elvis lifts his hand in a brief salute and slips past the velvet drape, rejoining the glow of floodlights and thunderous applause. Minutes stretch before the crowd as they wonder at the delay. Some whisper of technical setbacks, others murmur about the king's health. Then, from the edge of the stage, Elvis's voice cuts through the din, not in song, but in invitation. "I have some special guests here tonight." His tone holds no showmanship, only warmth. He beckons them on stage. A hush falls as Rachel and her mother step into the pool of light. Rachel clutches the pin to her heart, and Tommy trails behind, fear and excitement tangled in his every step. Elvis stands beside them, offering his arm to his mother and a protective hand on Rachel's shoulder. The auditorium breathes in unison, stunned by the intimate tableau framed by roaring spotlights. Elvis turns toward the microphone, silent for a heartbeat, then opens with that song, soft, unamplified for a moment, his voice carrying raw and clear. The notes tremble like a heartbeat in the vast hall, weaving between the rows and settling over every soul present. No orchestra swells, no backing chorus joins. Just Elvis, Rachel, and the echo of a father's final wish resonating between them. When the last note fades into the hush, the audience exhales in a single collective sigh, tears shining on countless cheeks. On stage, Rachel leans into Elvis's side, clutching the pin as if it were the most precious treasure. Elvis lifts his arm in a gentle arc, acknowledging the moment and the bond forged through music. In that instant, the gift of a song becomes something far greater. It becomes a living memorial to a man lost too soon, and a testament to the power of a promise carried on the wings of melody. In the hush of the backstage corridor, the dressing room door swings closed, muffling the roar of the crowd into a distant hum. Rachel settles onto a stiff folding chair, still clutching the silver star pin Elvis pressed into her palm. The cool metal presses against her chest like a secret. Her brother Tommy stands at the vanity mirror, watching Elvis slip out of his sequined jacket with the easy confidence of a man who's worn 1,000 costumes, but never one this personal. Their mother hovers near the open wardrobe rack, shoulders hunched and eyes bright. Elvis studies them for a long moment, then crosses to a small wooden stool. He perches on its edge, fingertips drumming on its worn surface. "Tell me about your father," he says quietly, voice softer than any backstage chatter. Tommy exhales, raking a hand through his sandy hair. "He was sick. Cancer." His words come in a rush. "They brought him home to Memphis months ago. He couldn't even leave the bed. But every morning my brother would play your record, 'If I Can Dream,' on the old turntable. He said your voice made him feel he could fight it." Tommy's eyes catch the pin glinting at Rachel's throat. He believed in that song like it was a lifeline. Their mother shrinks back, lips pressed tight. Elvis nods, absorbing the confession as if it were a whispered prayer. He stands and moves to the corner table, where a battered record player sits silent, and reaches beneath it. From under the lid he withdraws a vinyl disc, an acetate press from his own private sessions. He sets it on the spindle, and the needle lands with a soft click. The room fills with the opening strains of "If I Can Dream," but this version is raw. A lone guitar, distant drums, his voice unpolished by studio polish. He steps forward, standing near Rachel, who clasps the star pin with white-knuckled fingers. Elvis lifts one hand, palm outward, as if offering a gift. The song's first verse rises and falls, carrying through the cramped space like a benediction. Midway through, Tommy's mother gasps, eyes brimming. She steps closer, drawn by every tremulous note. Elvis watches her face, lit by the spinning disc's motion, and gently places a hand on her shoulder. "He wasn't alone," he murmurs. "He had your family's faith." The song crescendos, then subsides, the last lingering chord dying into a hush. Elvis lifts the needle and sets the tone arm aside. He turns to the family, and for a heartbeat, none speak. Then he reaches into his jacket pocket and pulls out a small sketch. Rachel's drawing of their father standing before a spotlight, tears on his cheeks. He holds it up so they can all see it. "I want you to have this," he says softly. "I asked for your father's words, but you gave me this image instead." His thumb traces a tear on the paper. Art speaks when words fall short. Rachel steps forward and retrieves her drawing, voice barely above a whisper. "I wanted you to see him happy." Her hands tremble as she folds the paper into her jacket pocket. Elvis nods, eyes misting. He fishes out a cream-colored envelope and opens it, revealing 2 tickets to his next Jacksonville show, seats in the front row under the balcony. "He would have loved these," Elvis says. "I want you all to use them. Sit close. Let him be there with you." Tommy's breath catches. "But we don't have a ride." Their mother's voice wavers. He smiles, color flooding his cheeks for the first time that night. "My driver will take you." He glances at the clock on the rear wall. "You'll leave at 6 tomorrow morning, enough time to catch the sunrise over the Atlantic on your way." He turns toward the door, hand on the knob, then pauses. "One more thing." He steps back and removes his gold crucifix pendant. "This belonged to my mother. I've worn it every show since she passed. I want Rachel to have it." He lowers it into her palm. "Carry it when you feel lost. It's kept me safe." Rachel stares at the cross, tears spilling down her cheeks. She cannot speak. Elvis places his hand over hers, anchoring both the cross and her trembling fingers. After a moment, he straightens and moves to leave, but turns once more. "Your father's fight matters," he says, with quiet conviction. "Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." The dressing room door clicks shut behind him. Tommy steps to Rachel's side and wraps an arm around her shoulders. Their mother stands with the drawing and postcards of tickets, still holding the half-empty cup of water Elvis brought. Silent gratitude fills the small room, richer than any spotlight or standing ovation. Outside, the next act's music drifts in through the crack under the door. But here, in this fleeting sanctuary, the Briggs family has received far more than a show. They've been given memory, meaning, and a promise carried across miles by a man who understood that sometimes the most powerful performances happen in whispers, in small gestures, and in the space between two hearts. A pale dawn light filters through the slatted blinds of the Riverside Inn's modest room, casting elongated stripes across the threadbare carpet. The air carries the faint scent of coffee from the lobby below and the distant rumble of traffic on the highway. Tommy wakes first, rubbing his eyes as he sits up on one of the 2 narrow beds. He glances at his sister, Rachel, still curled beneath the blankets clutching Elvis's mother's cross. Their mother, wrapped in a hotel robe, stands by the window staring at the morning sky, grief and hope entangled in her expression. Last night's whirlwind feels half dream, half truth. Elvis Presley himself, the king of rock and roll, had escorted them backstage, tended to Rachel when she fainted, and pressed tokens of love into their hands, gifts no photo gallery or newspaper had captured. Now those tokens lay scattered on the small dresser, 2 front-row tickets labeled "Reserved," a folded sketch of their father with tears running down his cheek, and the simple folded envelope with Memphis stationery. A soft rap comes at the door. Tommy opens it to reveal a man in a crisp suit, Elvis's driver, holding a leather portfolio. He steps inside silently, closes the door behind him, and offers the folder to their mother without a word. She unfolds the heft of the papers inside: legal deeds, transfer forms, and a notarized bill of sale for a modest bungalow on Elvis's old street in Whitehaven, Memphis. The documents bear her name, clear proof of ownership, and the title to a house that once belonged to their family before sickness and rent collectors force their father to relocate. Tears brim in her eyes as she scans the pages. Tommy stands behind her, voice thick. He did all this for us? The driver nods gravely, then extends a plain card. Our Mr. Presley asked me to give you this letter. She unfolds it carefully. The handwriting is bold, yet steady. Dear Briggs family, I don't need another autograph or another photograph. What I cherish most is memory, those precious moments that keep our loved ones alive in our hearts. Your husband, your father, gave me the greatest gift, faith that music could heal. You brought that gift to me last night. It belongs to your family now. May this home shelter your children and keep your memories safe. With respect and love, Elvis Presley. Their mother's hands tremble as she reads the words aloud. The fragile hush of hope settles over the room. Rachel, waking to the soft murmur of voices, stirs and slips from her bed. She pads across the room, gaze wide, and places a hand on her mother's arm. Together they absorb the quiet weight of Elvis's gesture, a house to rebuild their lives, a reminder that sometimes the largest stages must yield to the smallest acts of kindness. Tommy clears his throat and lifts a small notebook from the dresser. Inside are scrawled lines he glimpsed in Elvis's own journal during their backstage visit. A show belongs to everyone, but occasionally to one soul. His fingers trace the sentence. He kept this, he whispers. He wrote it for us? Rachel wraps her arms around him, tears bright in her eyes. He did. The morning sunlight streams stronger now, igniting dust motes in the air. Their mother gathers the deeds and the letter, pressing them to her heart. She looks at her children, voices breaking with quiet joy. We have a home again. He made sure of it. Rachel lifts the gold cross, sunlight reflecting off its surface, and clips it onto her blouse. It lies over her heart like a promise. They take turns hugging Elvis's driver, each word of thanks catching in their throats. Outside, the neon sign of the diner across the street flickers to life, and the world begins its daily turn. But inside this hotel room, time holds its breath for one more moment, honoring the legacy of a man who understood that fame can build stages and houses, but only compassion builds lasting sanctuaries in people's hearts. Years later, Rachel will stand in the ribbon-cutting ceremony of a community center for children in North Memphis. Above its doors hangs a framed collage, her father's photograph beside Elvis on stage that night, the drawing she made, and a replica of the house deed bearing her mother's name. She will tell visitors how one man's silence, his decision to listen, to speak only by caring, became the truest kind of music, echoing through generations and reminding every child that their story matters.